You want some bad news, Michael?
No.
What are you asking me?
You're the guru of the gray matter. I figured if anybody had it, you'd have the answer.
I can't give you any direction.
I think I'm going to have to change this channel. I'm sorry.
You're completely wrong.
I refuse to be wrong on 2 calls in a row.
Tell me I'm spot on or tell me I'm crazy as all get out.
I have no idea.
I have a 6-month-old, so we'll be raising him according to Dr. Ray.
Talk about being a winner.
So, you want my question?
You ain't making any sense.
You're absolutely right. I just needed confirmation.
So what are you going to do about it, Dawn?
I'm calling you.
Now, from the studios of Living Bread Radio Network in Canton, Ohio, the hometown of Mother Angelica, here's Dr. Ray.
Andrew, that could be my favorite bumper. That one there. I forgot about that one. We did that one a while back. I'm hoping you always have your hand ready to grab some of these. Those are they are a testament to my frailty and inefficiency. Nice to have you with me here, and the doctor is in. This is Look Back Friday. It's an idea we came up with. Andrew informs me some 11 years ago. I thought it was about 5 years ago, but as my cousin once said to me, anytime you look back and try to remember how far back something was, double it. And I found that to be very, very true. My wife and I had to take care of some funeral business. We went and we talked to the folks, and we had done it previously. And I said, when were we here last? I think it had to be 5 or 6 years ago, wasn't it? And she looked at me and said it was 2015. So once again, the law of doubles kicks in. So we did this about 11 years ago. Maybe it's 12 by now. And I decided, let's take some of these previous calls. Andrew edits them. He does a lot of work for me on that end, Dan Ave. He's the producer man. People say, is he your son? No, my son's name is Andrew also. But this is a different Andrew. He's just a few years older than my son. So given that, we take these calls, and there are aspects of the call that usually land them into the look-back list. Whether it's a term somebody used in the call, whether it's a direction that I went and I thought, I could have gone in another direction, but I didn't. Maybe I should comment on that. But you couldn't do it during the call because then you'd meander. Whether it is something that the person, I was reading between the lines, I'm sorry, I was hearing between the lines, sorry about that, and I wanted to comment, but it would have jarred the direction of the call, so I didn't comment. But I put it aside as a look back, so I can comment on days like today, which is Look Back Friday. So there's a lot of reasons. If the common thread running through all of them is identified, it is, I simply want to talk more. It's that simple. So cutting through all of the justifications, all of the quasi-intellectual sounding reasoning for look-back calls, let's just get right down to the nitty-gritty self-interest. I got more to say. All right, so we shall get to that. Physical problems as well as emotional, mental issues have a lifespan in our culture. They rise high. They become higher profile. People are more aware of them. I don't know how many years back, whatever I would guess, I'm going to double it. TMJ, temporomandibular joint dysfunction, where there's pain here in the hinge part of the jaw. And for a while there, it was in the news, and all the health sites were talking about it. Well, I shouldn't say sites, because back then we didn't have the actual health sites, but the health places, the news broadcasts, it was relatively talked about frequently. I shouldn't have said See, I was searching for a word, and I said I hate when I do that. I've decided that one of the reasons for TMJ is parenting. I'll give you an example. It's happened with me. My daughter asked me, this was some years back, "Hey, Daddy, can you drop me off there? I need to go in and get something." Now, I was late to where we were going, but I thought, okay, Sari, her name's Sarah, but I called her Sari. I said, okay, I'll just park here, honey. You go in, and can you be quick about it? Oh, yeah, Daddy, I'll be quick about it. Okay, good. Well, she wasn't quick about it. I sat in a car, and I listened to 5 minutes of a talk show, then 15 minutes of a talk show, then 20 minutes of a talk show. And I thought, okay, she had to pick up one thing. I hope she's not browsing around, looking at stuff that, for the future, she might want to own. So I got out of the car. I'm going in, and I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to find her in an aisle somewhere, looking around, browsing, as opposed to getting what you had to get, coming back out, and we go. So I go in, already kind of irked. She's standing in the checkout line. So I can't yell. I can't say anything. I can't raise my voice. Can't do anything. There's people all over the place. I would embarrass myself. So I yelled through my clenched jaw. "Hey, sir, what are you doing? How long are you going to take, Sarah? You said it was 5 minutes. Now, I couldn't yell. I mean, that's ugly. And I didn't want to yell anyway. That's dumb. Parents yelling, that's dumb. But I had to do something. So I realized that the tension in my jaw as a stifled yell came out of my mouth. You do that a fair amount of time as a parent, you're going to create tension in that joint. Hey, get in here now! Your teeth don't move. Your tongue isn't actually articulating the sounds. Everything is pretty much gutted through a clamped shut facial orifice. And eventually, if you got a lot of kids, and you got a lot of kids who do what kids do, which is frustrate parents. And you don't like to yell. You don't want to yell. You don't want to go to confession saying, I don't talk to anybody like I talk to my kids. You don't want to do that. But yet, you've got that pent-up frustration in you. How you going to get it out? That's where the risk of TMJ comes in. You've been clenching your jaw for years now. Did you go to the dentist? He said, do you grind your teeth? No, not that I know of. Well, do you have any way of knowing when you sleep what you're doing? No. Is there anything that could explain why you're having this pain in your jaw? And if you're totally honest, you could say, well, do you want me to name them by their birth dates or alphabetical order by their first name? I'm taking a break.
Concentration camp survivor Elie Wiesel once said to forget murder victims is to kill them twice. 65 million unborn children have been killed by abortion. A small fraction of these victims are buried in human cemeteries. Let us honor them at the graves and memorial markers. Saturday, September 13th, the National Day of Remembrance. See all locations and times at nationaldayofremembrance.org. That's nationaldayofremembrance.org.
Looking for a trusted contractor for your exterior home improvements? Call locally owned Mighty Dog Roofing today for a quote on roofing, gutters, siding, or windows. Mighty Dog Roofing uses premium products including Owens Corning shingles and James Hardy fiber cement siding, and they offer one of the best warranties in the industry through their OC Platinum Preferred status. Visit MightyDogRoofing.com today or call 833-MIGHTY-4. That's 833-MIGHTY-4.
Hi, everybody. Dr. Ray Grandy, host of The Doctor Is In, Ave Maria Radio for 20 years. I've been with them, and during that time I've watched them spread our precious faith to anyone, anywhere. Well, also in that time, their equipment, the equipment that they had is cutting edge, no longer is cutting edge. It's kind of like an iPhone 5. We need your help. We absolutely need your help. Visit AveMariaRadio.net. You're not just donating, you're broadcasting hope.
Underwritten in part by the following nonprofit.
Are you paying high prices with a traditional health insurance company that pays for things that violate your conscience? There's an alternative available. Solidarity HealthShare is a community of faithful individuals and families that never share into immoral medical services, all while saving you money with prices starting as low as $85 per month for singles and $512 for families. Never fund another abortion with your healthcare dollars. Call 844-313-4999 to learn more.
My wife, bless her heart, for those of you in the South, she got me an app. I didn't know this. She got me an app. She said, Ray, this app shows you what you'll look like when you're old. I said, oh, cool. Oh, cool. So it's like kind of like, you know, those things that they do. What do they call that? A Photoshop. They make you look real young and no wrinkles and all that stuff. Well, this is kind of like reverse of that. I said, that's great. What is it, honey? She goes, it's a camera. Got it. Let's go to Matthew. He's calling from AK. That's Alaska, is it not? I believe. How old is your son?
26.
When did he have his break?
Well, we always kind of noticed the Asperger's and stuff, but as you know, puberty, the schizophrenia started showing up, and we weren't sure what we were looking at, but later it became pretty obvious. And he's been on and off meds, and they dialed in the meds pretty good, and he evens out quite a bit, and you know, gets respectful. His cognitive abilities are better, can carry on a conversation, etc. But yeah, he's kind of stubborn, and it's the first part of this the story you told on the interview went 1 minute too long. He's a smart kid too. Even when he's off his meds, he can kind of weave his way through an interview.
That kind of rang true for you.
Yeah, oh yeah. No, yeah. We're kind of in a catch-22. I mean, we don't have unlimited funds. We can't just buy another piece of property and house him somewhere. He's been in housing situations, but he keeps getting kicked out because he gets defensive.
Does he come back home?
He sees things as an attack. No, we've got a large family, small kids too, and you know, he's attacked me a couple of times.
Yikes! So I'm assuming it's out of the question that he can come back home.
Correct.
Okay. Because you have to look out for the welfare of yourself and the family.
Right.
Okay. Did you call the cops when that happened?
Yeah. No, he's been had the cops called on him 3 or 4 times. There's two pending cases now. One where he got physical with a nurse in a psych ward, and another where he got physical, pulled a knife on somebody.
Yikes!
In his in where he's living now, and somehow the doctor talked them into taking him back on, you know, until something else happens.
What happens when he's kicked out? Where does he go?
That is an excellent question. You know, there's a not really a hostel, but a place in Anchorage. I'm working in Sitka. We actually lived near Anchorage, but you know, that was $600 a month, which isn't bad at all. But that he's not allowed there anymore. The place that he's in now, where he he gets, it's paid for through grants from the government, etc. If he gets convicted or if he does something again, he's out of there. So yeah, we don't know. And the government won't help until it's too late. Basically, if it gets too annoying for the government, then they'll force him on meds. Basically, in prison, they'll make sure he takes meds.
Is he facing serious charges? I mean, you threaten somebody with a knife. That's felonious.
Yeah, I think that guy dropped the charges. But the threat against the nurse, that might go somewhere. But generally speaking, basically first-time offender, it's probably not going to be that serious. I don't know. It could go either way.
Well, they'll take his mental state into account.
Yeah. Realistically, at wit's end, it feels like we're caught in a catch-22. Sometimes we'd be okay if he was in prison.
I understand that. I certainly understand that because of prison environment, at least if you assume there's not the whole lot of the prison dangers there, it would be a supervised, structured environment for him. Are you asking what your social options are? In other words, how many group homes can he burn through? Or are you saying, what can we do as parents to stabilize him?
A little bit of both. We're just looking for some sort of a solution, some sort of a light at the end of a tunnel that's not a train.
How much has he spent time on the streets?
A little.
Alaska's not really a good place to live long on the streets.
In the very short summer, it's not bad.
It's like, from July, from June 28th to August 1, it's okay.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Probably need to talk to a local organization, somebody that's involved with those who have been diagnosed with chronic mental illness, and see what their options are in terms of group homes. And there are some group homes, obviously.
Yeah, we've actually been getting help for a couple of years from a psychologist and somebody that helps with the meds and et cetera. They have been helpful, but we're running through those options as well, and we can't compel him to take his meds.
No, you can't, and that's the sad thing. I remember when I first began as a psychologist, we had a lot more leverage. If somebody, in fact, was a danger to themselves in the sense that they had lost contact with reality, not in the sense that they were going to be violent, there was some leverage you could exert to say, okay, we're going to commit you and we're going to try to stabilize you. But now...
Well, we've got both, and we still aren't getting help.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of the way it's become. Yeah, we've given so much personal rights that we've kind of given you the right to destroy your life.
Right.
I think the first thing is, this is kind of unrelated to what you asked me. You and your wife probably have to be careful that you don't get so immersed into trying to keep him stable that you don't neglect the rest of the family. That can easily happen. Right. You can pour so much energy and time. We had that with my daughter. We poured so much energy and time into her group homes that she burned through about 5 of them, all the meetings and everything, and there were still kids left at home. So yeah, that's something you're going to have to really watch, that balance. That's big. Another thing is you probably, and you haven't said this, your wife, I don't know how distressed she is about all this, but
it's extremely stressful.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking. She's really going to have to work hard at recognizing her helplessness. That's the reality. It's a sad, tragic reality in that his brain doesn't work right. You couple that with whatever other neurological deficits he's had from the Asperger's or the autistic spectrum stuff, and you got a guy whose just judgment is absolutely awful, terrible. Yeah. And he's dangerous to himself. He's dangerous to other people. And in all likelihood, he's probably going to do something that's going to get himself hurt or somebody else hurt, and then he's going to get in big trouble with the law. That's a real possibility, and I think your wife somehow, some way has got to come to peace with that. Oh, boy. so many, as I was listening to that call again, so many tangents I could comment on. One of the things that, and I'm reluctant to say this at some level because I don't want to scare people, but sometimes you can see the slow onset of a psychotic disorder in puberty or the teen years. Even though it's not floridly psychotic, there are oddities in expression. There are oddities in perceptions, perhaps not blatantly paranoid, but suspicious. There are things they asked. I remember a study I saw once. They asked, I believe it was psychiatrists, and they showed them films, information, and they asked them to predict who would have ultimately a psychotic break. And they predicted it reasonably well on the basis of those, if you call them prodromal signs, prior to the full expression of the disorder. So that sounds like that's what was happening with this young man. He already had some neurological indications in his autism. But as he moved into his teen years, the, if you will, quirkiness, whether it's social, thinking, whatever it might be, became more pronounced until ultimately he had a break. Now, Dad pointed out medication noncompliance. That is so very common in someone who has a chronic mental disorder because they don't like the side effects, or they don't like the fact that the medication tempers their feelings of grandiosity or on top of the world or whatever it might be. When they're in a psychotic state, they feel invulnerable, unconquerable, and the medication takes some of that away. So they don't like that. So medication noncompliance is huge. And unfortunately, because they're adults, legally, you can't force them for the most part. Yeah, you can have short-term commitments here and there, but you cannot for any length of time force someone to take medication. The other thing Dad pointed out, I'm going to go past the break on this. The other thing Dad pointed out was that he was very good at hiding his psychosis. And that's a common misperception people have about psychosis. When somebody is crazy thinking, they're not crazy thinking all the time. And sometimes they're very aware that their thinking, which they think is perfectly normal and reasonable, somebody else might not. And I used to see this when I used to interview for the state hospital. The condition is called guarded. In other words, they're not about to admit to anything that would sound like they're losing a grip on reality. They have enough awareness to know that what they're thinking, what they're paranoid about, what delusion they might have, is not going to sound normal to the person who's assessing them. So they watch it. And it sounds like his son is good at doing that. The most tragic thing I'm going to get to, because I know this music's going to start here, the most tragic thing I'm going to talk about, and this is heartbreaking, and I've experienced this even with my own daughter, whose birth mom was a crack prostitute, and drugs and alcohol were part of her womb environment, and my daughter struggled with her cognition, especially as she got into adolescence, and her thinking got very, very convoluted. So we'll get to that in a second, but I want to talk a little bit about the hardest part for a parent to accept. I want to continue a little bit on this look-back call, so I'm looking back on a look-back. Quick summary, in case you weren't listening, or you just tuned in. Dad called about his 26-year-old son, who has had in and out group homes and hospitalization because of his mental disorder, diagnosed as schizophrenia. And there's been difficulties in terms of med compliance. There's been difficulties in terms of him getting kicked out of multiple group homes, sometimes for violence. Two things I wanted to comment on, and I didn't get a chance. One, the hard part is to keep in mind, to reinforce that this man who is doing this, for the most part, does not have full control. The church would clearly teach his culpability, his blameworthiness is very limited. Very limited. So threatening a nurse with a knife, violence, assault, those kinds of things, it is easy enough to think, oh, he knows what he's doing. He doesn't need to do this. He needs to be held accountable. Yes, you do have to protect and perhaps even hold accountable, but always recognize when the brain is not working right. Oh, Dr. Ray, a lot of people's brains don't work right. What I mean is it truly chemically is not working right. This young man, who were he not afflicted with this brain malfunction, would not be like this. He wouldn't threaten people. He was raised in a decent home. He'd probably be a very responsible, mature young man. So I guess resist the temptation to think, what is with him? No. Recognize he's not in full control of his impulses, his faculties. Here's the hardest one. The risk. The risk. We've set up conditions in our society where people basically, for the most part, can no longer be long-term institutionalized. That ended back in the 80s. I was part of it. I mean, they told us in Ohio, got to get them out of Massillon State Hospital is what we called it, man. At one point, it had 4,000 residents. 4,000. Had to get them all out. Yeah, where'd they go? Well, they went on the streets. They went into nursing homes. They went into group homes sometimes, unless the group home couldn't handle them. Then they went back on the streets. So we no longer as a society allow this. As a result, when someone is not thinking clearly and in fact they are threatening, or in fact they get themselves thrown out of living arrangements. As I said, my daughter burned through 5 of them, 6 of them. She knew what she was doing. She didn't want to be there. She knew what she had to do to get out of it. I would guess this young man is probably of the same mindset. Perhaps he doesn't want people telling him what to do. Doesn't want to have to come and go on their schedule. He sees himself as a fully functioning independent adult, and as a result, once he gets kicked out, he has no place to go. And did you hear what Dad said regarding his wife? In essence, he said it's destroying her. Well, maybe it's not destroying her, but it's tormenting her. Because she worries for her son. And the hardest part in all of this, believe me, I know, is that you're helpless. You're helpless. You're watching someone whose life is at risk. You can't predict what's going to happen on that street. You can't predict what he's going to do, what he's going to get into. And Dad said something to me is perfectly understandable. It would almost be better he'd be in prison. I understand that. Because if he learns to mind his own business, he'll probably be left alone, and he probably wouldn't be into a level of violent offender institution. So, given that, he'd be supervised. He'd have to take his meds. And he would be watched over 24/7. Because at this point, as a parent, Dad and Mom are forced. They are forced to accept that their son, at this time, is on a self-destructive path. And if they cling to the idea that, well, there's got to be a way. There's got to be something to stop this. Tragically, there may not be. As long as he has the authority to do what he wants, to resist medication, to sabotage group homes, to live in and out of the street, as long as he, with his damaged brain, is able to do that, the chances of them reaching him to stabilize him may fade. Now, I'm not saying that's exactly what will happen, but I think for their own peace, they're going to have a part of them say that the tragedy of our young son, our 26-year-old son, is that he has a serious brain disorder. I could draw a parallel to a serious physical problem. If he had a serious physical problem that was terminal, or at the very least unpredictable, they would have to live with that. In a sense, they have to live with this. I've talked to so many parents whose young adults are in and out of levels of psychosis. And it affects their judgment. It affects their ability to live. It affects their ability to be safe. It affects their ability to function. It does. It dramatically affects it. And it puts them at very high risk for an untimely end, or at the very least, a hardship that could be irreparable. That's the hardest part. That is by far the hardest part. You pray for, you continue to look for options, but you recognize that in the end, it may not be up to you. It could be well beyond your ability to intervene. Yes, I think it was a mistake. I think it was a mistake to get rid of all the long-term care facilities. Absolutely. But a society hopefully regroups after it goes in a direction for a while and said, well, that didn't work. Doctors in one big nationwide sensitivity encounter group with I, your facilitator, burdened with toxic sensitivity. Very nice to have you here. This is Look Back Friday. So let's go look at another call back there. Catherine, she says her mom's ridiculous. And she says she's struggling to set boundaries.
So I am 29 years old. I still live at home with my mother. I'm her caretaker. So I take care of all of her needs and everything she needs. I take care of where she has to go and all of that. So it's me and my brother. We both help her out, but I primarily take the load of everything. Basically, that happened, obviously, after my father passed away a few years ago. So that was, really hard on our family. And so that's been, an adjustment to have to kind of get used to. And so recently, a man came into my life, a Catholic man that I really adore. He's been dating for about 6 months now. He's in the military. And one of the most important things my mom said is, if he doesn't have a degree, it's going to be important for him to have one because education is very important.
What kind of degree? What kind of degree?
A bachelor's degree, because I have a master's in counseling.
So at least a college degree. So if this guy has incredibly trade skills who will make $100,000 plus a year, and with your master's you'll make 36, your mom says, no, education is going to make the difference. Is that what she's saying? Yeah, but as of right now, he's not making that much. So that was her concern. Okay. So how's he going to provide for you and all of that? What she wants you to do about it? Yeah, so basically she wants me to tell him
to go back to school to get his bachelor's degree. And I kind of talked to him about it and, like, his viewpoint on it. And he's like, yeah, he's definitely, like, open to going back.
Let me interrupt you here, Catherine. Bachelor's in what?
A bachelor's degree in whatever he wants to study. But he said he wanted to get into, like, nutrition. That was, like, what his interest was in.
Now, you realize that a high percentage of bachelor degrees, more so Bachelor of Arts than Bachelor of Science, but still even Bachelors of Science, don't result in a person working in the field that they got the degree in. Let's say he goes into Bachelor of Arts in Nutrition. All right, his options are going to be fairly limited, and it's not going to be exactly something when he can just make this into a career that is good for both of you. So I guess, okay, here's what I'm saying. First of all, I think your mother's premise is wrong. She's automatically saying you got to have a college degree to provide. That's false. That's just false. All right. Anybody with initiative can get into all kinds of things to do very, very well. That's the first thing. So the question is, what kind of character does this guy have? Is he a good, faithful, loving, responsible, mature dude?
Yes, all of those things. All of those things. He's a really good guy. The only thing is, like, my mom is super sensitive, so they've had little quarrels here and there. So
well, he doesn't like that she's kind of butting in.
Yeah. Exactly.
Tell him not to argue with your mom. Tell him just to sit and listen. The reason he argues with her is this. He's probably afraid that she'll influence you. Tell him she's not going to influence me. I know who you are. I respect and love who you are. She's not going to influence me. So you don't even have to argue with her. You can just nod and accept what she says. She says, you need to go to college. Yes, thank you. That's a very good suggestion. And then do what he wants.
But check this out, Dr. A. Oh my goodness, I haven't even gotten to the, like, worst of it yet. So that's what I told him. Because this is his career. He knows what he's doing. He's been in the Marines for 4 years now, going on 4 years. So basically what happened is, due to that conversation they had a conversation in the past, like, yeah, he's going to go back, all that. So then she was like, if he doesn't go back, then, you know, that's going to be a problem, and I'm not going to have that in my household, so I'm not having a degree. So she has a doctorate. My father had a doctorate, too.
What do you think about her attitude?
I think that it's too much, and I...
Well, that's kind. That's kind of you, dear. Too much. You could have said ridiculous.
Yeah.
So she's not going to change that, right?
No, not at all.
So she's going to force you.
Yes.
She's going to force you to basically say, Mom, this relationship looks like it's going to continue, may end up in marriage. Mom, what are you going to do then? Are you going to write off your daughter?
And that's exactly what she was saying. So basically since that time, so they had a conversation. So she called him on the phone. She yelled at him on the phone. He yelled back at her.
Oh, yeah, see, he can't.
This whole degree situation.
He can't yell back at her.
And then he apologized later on.
No, if she's going to act that way, you don't want him to act that way back. Tell him that.
Mm-hmm.
Say, I understand what my mom is doing. I don't agree with what my mom is doing, and you don't have to let it bother you. Now, remember, well, maybe you don't remember. Maybe you weren't here. Maybe you were listening. I said that sometimes as I re-listened to the call, I went off in a direction into the weeds. And I did that in this call. I got caught up in the whole idea of he isn't worthy of her because he doesn't have a bachelor's degree. And I got caught up in her reasoning on this. What became clear as the call unfolded, and I should have picked up on this at the beginning of the call, was that somehow Mom doesn't want her to be with this guy, and my guess is it's because, as she said, I'm living with my mom and I'm taking care of her. If you're going to lose your caretaker because she's going to marry another guy and live with him, that's a major threat. And Mom went so far as to say, if you end up with him, I'm not part of your life. Now, for that kind of threat, if that's what it was, it sounds desperate. Mom's essentially saying, I don't want you to meet with anybody because you're with me. I need you. You take care of me. You can't leave. You can't go in your own life direction. So the core issue, which for me I should have picked up on right away quick and I didn't. It took me 2 minutes. Okay, sorry. Is that Mom sounds like she's trying to sabotage this relationship because she gets into it with this guy. And if he's as kind and loving and good and stable and faith-filled as Catherine says he is, then he can't get pulled into it with her. Now, as I said, the fact that he does get pulled into it may indicate that he's trying to settle Mom down or argue her into seeing it from their perspective because he's worried about losing Catherine. So you got two people battling over Catherine here. Apparently the one guy wants to marry her and the mom doesn't want to leave. So Catherine's got both arms being tugged in opposite directions. In this situation, Catherine has to decide, is Mom way overstepping her authority? Yeah, it's one thing to honor thy father and mother, but it's quite another to say I'm going to have to do what my mother says for me to do, no matter how it goes against what I want to do as an adult, that I'm perfectly legitimate in wanting to do, which is to get married. Now, if this were therapy, I'd explore right away quick Catherine's sense of obligation toward her mother. Does she believe that she would be abandoning her mother if she got married? Does she think that if she goes in that direction, that she will lose her mother? Her mother's capable of saying, get out of here, get out of my life. And ultimately, how much will that affect her decision? I can only go by what she said. She says he's a great guy. If he is a great guy, and she's 29, and she would love to be married, and Mom is the one person standing in the way, you can't do this, I would question Mom's justification. In other words, is it really that he doesn't have a bachelor's degree? Or is it really that he could take her daughter away from her as she sees it? End of story.
This program brought to you in part by Ave Maria, Florida, a big kind of small town where golf carts take you everywhere and there's always something fun around the corner. Discover championship golf, resort-style amenities, and a town center full of shopping and dining. With Ave Maria University and Ave Maria Catholic Church at its heart, it's a community full of connection and charm. More than 25 model homes are available for viewing. More information can be found at AveMaria.com. That's AveMaria.com.
Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically own shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866-AVE-MARIA or visit AveMariaFunds.com.
Hi, everybody. Dr. Ray Graney, host of The Doctor is In. Ave Maria Radio has been putting out fabulous Catholic teaching, but the equipment we've got is aged. Like me, needs a lot of help. Some of the stuff is just hard to replace anymore. If you go to AveMariaRadio.net, please, for a donation for the equipment to reach much farther. You're not just donating, You're broadcasting hope.
Join Right to Life Thursday, September 18th at the Grecian Center in Southgate for their annual Focus on Life benefit dinner. The president of the Population Research Institute, Stephen Mosher, will be the featured special guest speaker. For questions and reservations, call 734-282-6100. That's 734-282-6100, or register by going to rtl.org and then events to find the benefit dinner hosted by Upper Downriver Right to Life on September 18th.
One of the things that I value about myself is my finely honed trick-or-treating skills. Years of polishing so that I'm very good at making a great haul trick-or-treating. And I have, fortunately, found friends who have young children, and I've been able to go with them. And, you know, when they put candy down at the end of the driveway, that's the easiest thing to do. You just grab a candy bar. Some of the ladies are a little tougher. You have to kind of find phrases. You say things like, wow, that's my favorite one. Don't see that one too much anymore. It means so much to me when I was a kid. You know, stuff like that. Well, 2 years ago, my friend had about a 6-year-old son who went with us. About halfway through trick-or-treating, he said, I'm ready to go home. I think I have enough. Now, my friend, good Christian man, said, where did I go wrong? That's un-American. To quit trick-or-treating halfway through, I've got enough? Which leads me to this quote from C.S. Lewis. One of the dangers of having a lot of money is that you may be quite satisfied with whatever happiness money can give. And so you fail to realize your need for God. If everything seems to come simply, now this is Lewis back in 1950-something, by signing checks. I think you could update this. If everything seems to come simply by a credit card, you may forget that you are at every moment totally dependent upon God. How often have you heard someone say, I've got enough. I don't need any more. My income is perfectly fine. It's more than I need. My experience is we always reach for more. It's like the trick-or-treat. We were shocked when he said, I've got enough. Let's go home. I don't need any more. We joked. We said, where do we go wrong? What kind of kid are you raising? We joked. But that little guy had a lesson for us grown-ups. It is easy to say, well, if I just had a little more, I'd be secure. That's it. I'll be secure. Of course, you're putting your security on the money, not God. It's easy enough to do. I was reading some research on giving, on people's giving, and folks with an enormous amount of money, and those of you who are always trying to raise support for the stations, you know that you have some very faith-filled givers with an enormous amount of money, and they could easily give a lot more and not even notice it, not even miss it. And they said that the main reason why someone that you look at who is enormously well off is slower to give is security. Will I have enough? As I get older, will my kids have enough? And that attitude in and of itself pulls one away from dependence upon God. It's like, okay, I'm going to be dependent upon my accumulation here, as opposed to my friend's little 6-year-old son, Benny, who said, I've got enough. I'm good. I've got enough. Now, fortunately, we sent him home. We didn't stop. We're not going to take that lesson. Not especially since the last 10 minutes of trick-or-treat hours is when you get your most, because everybody's trying to get rid of the candy they don't want to have in their house. Thank you for joining me here on this Look Back Friday. I'm Dr. Ray. The program Doctor is in. You have a beautiful weekend. Good Lord permitting, I'll see you Monday. Walk with God. That is enough.
For information on Dr. Ray's presentations, books, and CDs, visit drray.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The Doctor is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.